So did you not have sex before marriage?
Can I have water? We need water here.
You know what? I think we tried.
No, God knows we tried, Shem. Lendlela. Itarot. Bese kuba igrave. You wake up in the morning, you've got an erection as a guy, you're like, oh my God, and you're praying as a Christian, you're like, God, this thing, may it go away. I find it, and this thing is like, Andy, now I'm here.
Cause this is our love story. This is our journey. This is our love story. This is our journey.
To be quite honest, when we started dating, like, I was very clear about where about where I stand, right? I told him that, you know what, if you do want us to be in a relationship, just know that you ain't getting some.
Yeah.
You know, like, just know that we are not going to be having sex, and if you're okay with that, yes, we can be in a relationship, but if you are not, then it's cool. But hey.
And then bese mina at the time I was like, yeah, vele nami vele healing in season. I'm sitting by a man. and for some time we managed to keep it like that. But then I realized then we are shy to fit, and then we
got
felt
too comfortable.
We got too comfortable,
Yeah.
and then because then we got to be in spaces where that sense of morality and everything, the boundaries are just out of the corner. You understand? And yes, triggers and all of that. So we were in spaces where we were really triggered, and like Umoingwele tried to scream, but we were like, aye. So Kuluma move, I'm sorry, Moyengwele.
Saying that, Tom, as a Christian man, what would you have done differently?
So number one, I think, of course, I think what was important at the time, not just only to communicate my boundaries, but to emphasize them and to make sure that we, time and again go back to that. So we can't, they become more of a moral campus. So whenever we're talking about meeting, let's avoid spaces that would trigger, or that would make us to be so vulnerable that we won't be able to say,
Avoid vacations.
Avoid vacations. You would book them. And then she's just like, let's do this thing, and then I take a flight, and then we're just going, right? Avoid such things. And one of the things that I have learned is to know my triggers as a man. Very important to know what triggers me as a man. So know your triggers. Like, you can't be in a space where we ask Zuguti when she's wearing short pants, and the thighs, so stay away from that. Be in a space where there is accountability and you'll be accountable to someone. And that there's a reason why Joseph did not pray, but he ran. When Potiphar's wife was like, let's do this thing here and now. The Bible says he ran. Right? So it's very important to know when to pray and when to run. So I think I at the time depended on my strength. With I'm strong, and I realized I cannot trust myself. So one thing that any man should know, a Christian brother who is not yet married, don't trust yourself too much. You can't trust yourself too much. No, not with the flesh.
That's good. Yeah. What would you have done differently?
I think on my side, I started understanding why in churches you do have like courtships, right? Because the more you guys meet, you get too comfortable, right? Yes, I would disagree with like a courtship, because of like, how do you get to know each other in such a short space? Yes. But then you get to understand that the more you spend time together is the more you get comfortable. So I would say there's nothing wrong with dating, but really enforce those boundaries. And because we spoke a lot about sex. Like, we spoke a lot about sex.
Come, guys. I'm easier.
Like, my husband likes talking about sex, so I think it got... So I think it got to a point where even when we were talking about sex, like it was such a it was a topic that like was easy, it was comfortable. It became like one of those, you know. So I would say keep those boundaries. Try to, again, have someone who will keep you guys comfortable, accountable. Don't go on vacations, guys. Like this, they were saying we'll sleep in different rooms.
So it doesn't work. 2 a.m. 2 a.m. you're knocking on the other side.
I think we accommodated, you know, that space for us to have sex. So I would say, don't create that space. You know, don't create it to start with. Don't create it, and even those conversations. Yes, it's okay to talk about sex, but like.
Yes.
Man, create an environment where you feel like, you know, this thing is brewing and
Throughout the 10 years of dating, of not kissing, were you guys exclusive to each other, or did someone go and kiss someone else?
Maybe let me explain that one.
Yeah, we need to explain this one because
There's a context to it.
Okay.
So what happened in the 10 years, because of what she just said now, she always played hard to get. The first time we just gotten together, I said, I love you. And then I came back and like, no. Maybe it was too fast because I was expecting something from the Titanic. You know, like,
from the movie.
So I didn't get that. You know, I never knew that love isn't about that. Love is commitment. You gotta love even when the goosebumps are gone. I thought maybe I made a mistake. So I was like, let's break off. And she acted like, I'm fine.
Cool.
So I'm
we
like,
broke
okay,
up.
you're fine. We broke up. Then it was just for a couple of weeks or 2 months or something like that. I think you were grieving your dad then. And I think that hardened you a bit. You were just like, Pumagim. I was like, okay, I'm a survivor now that you are, you know. But yeah, we couldn't last apart. Then we were back together again. Then after that, we broke up 3 times. Then after that,
in the 10 years,
in the 10
were
years.
those three breaks.
So I think at the time I didn't kiss no one. Then after that, you moved to another town, miles away. Then we tried. It was a long distance relationship. Then we were like, it won't work. I think pride also got in the way, and we're like, you know what? So I think at the time I did see 1 or 2 people. I saw another lady because I was at a place now. I was looking for a wife now. Yeah, so I was really troubled and I was so distressed. I won't lie, because I knew it was the make or break of my life. I am what I am because of that right decision. Had I married wrongly, I've seen ministers, I've seen business people who went down just because of a wrong marriage choice. And I said, I don't want to make that wrong mistake. Breaking up with her, it's not because I didn't love her. I wanted to be sure. I just couldn't receive that ding tick, you know. Yeah, I'd said words, but I didn't receive that endorsement. So the second time around, it was because of long distance. We're like, it won't work. So I met a lady, it just couldn't work. I met another one, we kissed a bit. But because of my principles, I was like, I can't. This is not my place. So we broke up with that lady. Then again, we found ourselves together again. We go for years. Now we're in college. It was clear, but still our relationship was not in the public. I always made sure that I protect. It wasn't to protect us, it was to protect other congregants. We believed so much in the verse that says, don't be a stumbling block to your brethren in the faith. So I kept it, you know. I'd go home to see her at home. She'd come to my house. We never met. We never met in a bedroom. She'd come at the lounge. My mom would, you know, serve us coffee or tea if she could. And we really spoke about life and stuff, values and stuff. So the last breakup, we broke the camel's back, is I just graduated from college. I'm working. Then I was flying out to South Korea at the time. Something just was like, at church now, I'm a welcomed young pastor. The ladies were gunning for me. They were just like, you know, yo, guys. It was tough. It was tough. Then there were mothers who would come straight and be like, you know what, just, you know, this my child here. Could you? It was a tough period, and I had to make a decision. So when I was flying out, I'm like, maybe, you know what, you know, there are many fish in the ocean.
Yeah, maybe it was just too soon.
The first lady will come, you know. Then over an email, she's at UKZN, University of KwaZulu-Natal, a final year. I just drop an email. I'm like, my sister, I think, you know, Yeah, no, those were not the words in verbatim, but that's the tone. That's the tone I use. I was just like, this thing might not work. Maybe, there's still life, And I've started to taste money. I'm like, Ghana scholar, age. So it was arrogance, it was pride and stupidity, but I had my own fears and worries. I couldn't receive that, So we broke up. Yeah, I devastated her. I learned later on. Then
Of course, I was devastated.
Yeah.
At that time, it was during exams,
Yeah,
and I received an email
yeah.
breaking up with me. I'm like, this guy,
Yeah.
like, where is his own dignity, So,
Sometimes I was telling someone, sometimes when you care so much about someone and you're trying to protect them, you don't want to hurt them. You think that's the best way, but it's a stupid way.
How would you describe the first few years of your marriage?
Yeah, I feel like you. Wasn't that great? I would say it was overwhelming. Yeah. I think I was holding on to this whole idea, this romanticizing, your life, and very idealistic in my ways of thinking, young. And I think, growing up in the church as well, like you just get into a space where you sometimes lose touch with the reality of life and the things that come your way that you have to fight and, have to kind of work through.
Yeah.
But I do remember that we were 3 years into our marriage and 4 years, and we already had 2 babies, and it was like, I remember that was a lot for me. He had a great job, and it was a lot of traveling for him. So a lot of times I was alone, and I still had a job. I worked at Rayma full time, and I just thank God for a community around us, family, a system, a structure, that there were always people that were helping us with the girls. And but it definitely, for me, it was a lot. I felt overwhelmed and at times just felt like I want to run away. It's just like, I can't deal with this. But God's been good to us, so that kind of was my. But yeah, always in feeling, but staying in love at the same time. It was like, wow, this is a lot, but we're gonna get through it, Yeah.
Your version, how was the first few years for you?
I think looking back at it now, I realize that so much of that time was spent trying to build a life that everyone around you expects to see.
Got you.
And it took us a long time to figure out what it was we wanted and how it is we wanted our family and our life to be working.
Yeah, it's very true.
And up until very recently, we had to kind of like reevaluate things and start from scratch and rebuild. And that's been tough because when you start looking at your values and beliefs and you start questioning where does it come from, and you start tasting those things, it reveals a lot of stuff. So we've shared a lot of the things that sometimes gets placed upon you.
Okay.
I think as a worship leader, there's certain things that people expect, all unspoken expectations. And very often when you step out of line in terms of what people expect you to do and how you expected to do it, it causes frowns and it causes confusion.
Yeah.
And it took us a long time to figure that out.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, the first few years were basically, it sounds like you were just following a template and you were frustrated in that template.
Yeah.
Correct.
Still in love.
I feel like even if I think back on those years, it's almost like a place I don't want to go to, because it was so crazy. Like it felt as though, like Will says, I think it's so right, we were running after this like fabricated thing that didn't really fit in. It didn't work,
Yeah.
And so much, still anxiety. But like, even if I think back on that time, I'm just like, I'm so glad we're not there anymore. Like you've grown through things. It's a lot more safe now, and it's you have an understanding. It feels comfortable now, And that's like that's such a nice feeling.
I know, and I was about to say, do you feel like everyone speaks of the honeymoon years as the first 2 years? Do you feel like you're more in your honeymoon phase now versus then?
I think what's different now is we are different.
Okay.
Yeah.
As people, we are very, very different to where we started. And the freedom that comes with that kind of relationship only comes with understanding who you are.
Correct.
And understanding and making space for who your spouse is.
Yeah.
And celebrating that. I think that's been the biggest lesson that we've learned.
Yes.
Because, you know, when you take on other people's expectations and other people's pictures of what success and what a good life looks like, until you figure it out for yourself,
Yeah.
you're chasing other people's dreams, you know. So we've spent a lot of time trying to figure things out, and unfortunately it's come at a tremendous cost. I mean, with the stuff that we've been through, it's very costly, but we're so grateful for it.
Yeah.
We got married during COVID.
Okay.
Yeah, we got married during COVID, December of that first year of COVID. And I think for us, it was exciting for a certain period, right? And it was exciting because we've always dreamt about
Getting married.
and now being together for, you know, for like full time, not having now you must go home, I go home, like now you're sleeping here, I'm sleeping, like, you know. So we're excited, but because we got married the first year of COVID, we had gone back home, right?
You were living in Nelspruit.
Yeah,
Both of you.
so she moved down for her articles, right? And then I couldn't stay away. I was like, I'm going, I opened my office, do your whatnot, and then we got married, right? But then obviously at the time I was staying now back in the house with yes, right? And then we got married, but we knew that we would come back up to Joburg. It's just that now that process, I think, how long was it?
It wasn't long.
Yeah?
We got married in December, and then I think we left officially for Joburg end of Jan, but it was also because his dad got very sick with COVID while we were there. So it was actually very dramatic. We got married, and then a week after we got married, his dad fell like sick. Like sick. We were locked down, and it was bad. So the first month of marriage, we were literally locked in the room.
Yeah, we didn't.
Like we were not allowed to leave.
In a bedroom.
Yes. Well, it was like a chalet cottage.
What was the word?
Isolating.
Yes.
Yeah, so we immediately got stuck. And then literally, you know, when you work on your body for the wedding, like in that month, all the progress gone. We ate our lives away and watched movies and series every single day. So that was the first month of marriage. It was fun.
It was fun. But then it just was like, no, now we need to get out the house, right? And then we then moved to Joburg, and I think our first year was very nice. We were quite relaxed. She had also, you had stopped your articles, no?
Yeah, no, it was the year that I applied to go to the bar. I applied for pupillage. So that year was almost like a gap year
for us. And it was just the two of us living our lives. And yeah, it was like
we were trying to hustle, side hustles. We were doing a lot of things.
I mean, you dated for 5 years.
Yeah.
Then you got married. Did you find anything shocking as soon as you said, I do?
Nah.
No, the only thing that changed is that when we were dating, he loved cooking.
Yeah.
Like he loved cooking.
I still do.
And then when we got married, it was like, my wife is gonna cook for me. That was the only difference. But other than that, man, I mean, in all honesty, there were lots of highs. There were probably some lows here and there in between, but it was more like growth. I think we grew a lot in that first year. We really learned our dynamic. You know, where's the tipping point of like each other. Like, okay, if we're having an argument, this is where I cap it, and then I'll talk to him about it some other time, because otherwise we're not gonna hear each other.
I won't lie, we learned how to argue.
Yeah, in the first year.
I won't lie, we learned how to.
There was a lot
to argue
on my side, and I think I took marriage very seriously from a very young age. So I knew what it meant also for a woman. So when I got into it, I knew how important it was for me to watch what I say and to not speak out of turn, right? So in the first year of marriage, I don't want to lie, there was a lot of me going to the bathroom going, I would look at him and I'd just be like, okay. And I'd go to the bathroom and go, oh.
Did you have much preparation on being a husband?
That was mainly just from observing.
Oh, but not like.
Yeah, no, I mean, my grandparents have been married, I think they're doing 70 years or so, or 60 years.
Almost 67 years.
Yeah, this year. And my grandfather and my grandmother are best friends.
Yeah. Okay.
Never separated, always together.
Yeah.
Right? So I've observed that.
Yeah.
And then my parents, 36 years, I think,
Yeah.
or 30 something years married.
Yeah.
And also then I've observed them, they are best friends, always together, never separated, right? So for me, that's my model of marriage. So I always hear people saying marriage this, marriage that. I'm like, hey guys, I don't know what you guys are exposed to, but this is what I'm exposed to. So I think I went into marriage with that thing that this is my best friend.
Yeah.
So I always want to be with her, you know. If like, I think that's one thing that we've been quite consistent on, is that we never separated. I think the only time we separated, it's when I went out the country or when she went.
Yeah, we never
But we
apart.
never. No.
Yeah, no, and I know. I mean, a lot of couples will be shocked to hear this, but
Yeah.
our first year of marriage was really lovely. Was really beautiful. So there were no issues. We were just like cruising nicely, you know.
Yeah.
The only challenge though is that we then fell pregnant. So married there and there, and then.
Because you planned for it.
No, it was. I don't think we calculated. You know, the Bible talks about calculating the cost. We had money for Pampers, but the other stuff emotionally and what it
Yeah.
takes. Because one of the things that happens, it might not happen to every woman, but the minute you guys fall pregnant, it changes the dynamics of the relationship, from communication to intimacy to anything of that sort, to priorities. So, and that's what happened with us. I mean, we were cruising nicely. The next
Yeah.
thing, we are pregnant. The next thing, angifuni sex. I'm like, hi, Jan. You know, so it was one of those things. But first year was beautiful.
Yeah, it was great, and I think, I don't know, but for me, you know, we like the word says a lot, and you know, we always have it. First year of marriage is tough. You know, and I think I came in with that okay, it is gonna be tough, and there wasn't any of that. But our first year of marriage was really great.
Yeah.
It was nice, yeah.
Tell me about your first few years of marriage, and I want you guys to specifically speak on intimacy. You've never
Yeah.
kissed, and obviously most people, especially women, worry good thing you're figuring
Yes.
and now you're stuck with this person. And I think we all, in reality, we all know that the first time you have sex is not Jack and Rose.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I can imagine, as your first time with
Yeah.
this person, now you're married, you're probably thinking,
Eish.
and I believe it's a first for both of you.
It's the first for both of us.
Yes,
Okay,
it
so tell me
was.
about those first few years of marriage, specifically in terms of intimacy,
Yeah.
and then we'll later get into expectations.
You go first.
Okay.
Looking
Yeah,
forward.
So you go
first.
Okay, so of course the first night was nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
I don't know what's supposed to happen, you know, and I'm thinking, you know, I'm supposed to be waiting on him. He's the one who should take action, but at the same time, he's also like new to this thing. But he surprised me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, okay, I don't know where he got
I'll tell you.
the moves and
got the
trainings
moves.
and what. But yeah, he really surprised me. As much as nothing much happened on the first night.
Yeah.
Nothing much happened.
Struggle.
Yeah, there were struggles and all of that.
Virginity.
But
Breaking high men.
Both of you guys virgins when you got married.
We both were
Yes.
virgins.
27 years old.
27 years.
In 2011.
2011. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah. Yeah, so it was that, you know, okay, but I was just happy that, you know, we are all fumbling and we're both fumbling in this thing.
Yeah.
I would imagine myself
fumbling with somebody who's more experienced, and it would make me feel really embarrassed. But now we were like, I too, don't know what's going on here, but yeah. We were blessed because we had a nice apartment that we stayed in for, was it a year or so?
Yeah, or something.
Yeah. And that's basically where we grew, together, and got to experiment and eventually succeeding in certain things.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. I thought he was a great kisser, and I was like, okay, this is the surprise. God, you're amazing. It could have happened the other way around. Oh my God! But well, it happened the right way, and
My story of how we started and everything went down. First and foremost, I hadn't kissed her for 10 years. I was looking forward to July 2011 when the priest would say, kiss your bride for the first time. So that time came. I was like, yes, the time I was waiting for, and it was special. Then the next thing, we had to go for our honeymoon. I want to thank the dads in the church. That's where I got a little bit of my polishing. Like they spoke about the family and how you could protect yourself and stuff. It really helped me when I got into our room. It was the first time, and I'd never been with a girl naked. And I'm like, weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, that's how electric it was. It was pure.
yeah.
Because I'd promised myself I wanted for marriage. It was pure. It wasn't quite a fumble, as yes. I understand the angle you're coming from. It wasn't a fumble for us. We had safety.
Yeah.
We were allowed to fumble. I think that's the beautiful part of our marriage. The beautiful part of our marriage is safety. We've grown together. Yeah, it's that safety. So it was. We had our first night. I couldn't break the hymen whatsoever. But it wasn't like, oh, brah, you missed. Actually, the people that told me were like, it's not about the penetration, my brother. It's about the foreplay. It's about a journey. Play the field, you'll get there. So yes, now fast forward, we eventually managed to, it's it now, okay. Oh, it was great. Ooh, I should not minimize that. Then the struggle is, we knew in this thing, she doesn't understand the body. I remember the time you were crying in our bedroom. Like, I don't think I'm good for this.
Actually, yeah, there was that part.
Yeah. There was a
of
time.
which I think it's very important, not to steal your story.
It's okay.
I think it's very important, now I have daughters, and I think it's my responsibility as well to help them there, The struggle of not knowing your body.
Yeah.
As a woman.
Yeah.
Is real.
Yeah.
I just want to linger there, and I want to go into, and I'm specifically comfortable to ask you guys this.
No stress.
Passes to this is your field, right?
Yeah.
And from both sides, were there any issues of pornography, especially waiting for 27 years? If there was, how did that affect your marriage? If there wasn't, how did you guys keep yourself pure?
Sure. Well, for me, there was, of which it comes from a terrible background, where I had seen pornography, but it was just a once-off kind of a thing. So, but that thing, it stays in your head. And it gives you that thought, or it gives you that idea. Yes, So, of course, purity, was difficult. I don't want to lie. But what saved, people like me was church.
Yeah.
Church, because I got born again. I was in grade 10. And I always think I got born again for him because I met him in grade 11. But anyway, I got born again in grade 10. And for me, it was like I'm running away because I'm seeing all of this that the world is bringing, and I don't think I'm safe. I just felt like, oh my goodness, like Because I wanted to make sure that I remain pure. I wanted to make sure, but now how? How am I going to do that? There's all of that that has been infused in my head. There's then, life itself and what's this? Peer pressure and all of that. That was the time. So in grade 10, I was like, actually, I literally was running away when I went to church. I was in it's a Christian school, but it was more of an Anglican school. But then we then had a sector where pastors would be invited, pastors from different types of churches and denominations. So that is where I then saw an opportunity. I was like, show me where church is. Show me where church is. I went there, would have services in the evening, especially on Sundays. So I was like, please, I just want to get born again because I don't know, somehow I thought it was a magic pill where you get born again and stuff, feelings go away and you're okay. But no, feelings didn't go away. But now I was part of a community. I was part of something where I knew I could always have someone to talk to, or I would, be part of a greater mission within the body. So to just get away from all of that. So it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
So it was.
Accountability.
Yeah.
I was a real guy. Whilst I respected her, we dated for 10 years, no kissing. I'm a real guy. I'm exploring, I'm discovering my body, the stresses of my body. Okay, I'm gonna go 18 SNLV. You wake up in the morning, you've got an erection as a guy, you're like, oh my God, and you're praying as a Christian, you're like, God, this thing, may it go away. I find it, and this thing is like, Andy, now I'm here. So those are the struggles with guys growing up. You're in church, then there's pornography. So I did get exposed to pornography quite a lot. I had my journey, which I like, I appreciate. Now I help clients, some who are addicted to porn, some who come, their marriages are in tatters because of porn. Going through the journey, not being just a guy who's locked up in a church and you have a perfect life, you've never experienced these things. It helps me to appreciate my journey. It helps me to understand how you cope, the coping mechanisms, and also be able to help other people. So I did have my struggles, but one thing I learned about it is that there's never a fulfillment. You just keep going into it. There's never a fulfillment. Then eventually it affects your relationship, because whatever energy you spend somewhere, it's just taken away from your relationship. So when she came in, I knew that it wouldn't work for our marriage. I knew I had to stay away from it, contentment, to focus on each other. And that's how we've been doing, and we've been doing quite good. Your person is enough for you. Just get busy.
I thought when you get married, you have sex 7 times a week, twice a day.
That's what I thought.
Okay, so fine. That's not always the case. So yeah, so I want to hear your story on intimacy.
Okay, I'll answer first. I think when we got married, he definitely had a lot of expectation, especially because leading up to getting married, like on my side, celibacy was a thing. Remember, I was God's girl, and he was like, so I think I also amped up that expectation with him was, when we get married, don't worry, brother. When we get married, don't worry, brother.
I got you.
So, I mean, when we had that lockdown period, grades, then it was anytime tea time, we're locked down, we're stuck here. Our first big fight, when we got married was actually about sex. But it was because it was when we were trying to move from Nelspruit to Joburg. So we were trying to find a place, and we were staying at my friend's house.
Okay.
My friend's house where she was staying with her boyfriend. Okay. And this one wants to continue. And I'm just like, hey, this is not our house. Like, wait.
What's wrong? They gave you the place.
No, because they were there. Like, so I felt awkward. I was just like, okay, like, just whoa a little bit. It's
She's
just a couple of days. I'm conservative as well, right? So I'm just like, hey, like in people's houses here, like, okay, wait till, like, he's like, anytime is tea time, like middle of the, I'm just like, bro, I'll see you tonight. Like, it's okay. So yeah, then because of that, you know, I think especially in the beginning, one thing leads to another because you just got married. So now you're like, oh, is this going to be the pattern? Is this going to... So there's always those things. So then that's what happened to us. It was like, okay, so now in marriage, is this how it's going to be? Is it... So I think for then, maybe a couple of weeks after that, it became a bit awkward.
Tense, yeah.
Yeah, it became a bit tense because I felt like, bro, you're putting so much pressure on this thing. Just... you know, calm down, it's okay. And he's like, yeah, but you told me when we get married, you're gonna, you know? So then I guess we navigated that period because, you know, once you have a negative, what can I say? For me, for example, because we're fighting about sex, immediately my approach to it was negative.
Yeah.
So now it just makes the whole thing even worse because now... Yes, because now I'm like, okay, you know, and it was not, I think then it was a bit tense, you know, because now it's like, he's like pressing me for it and I'm not in the mood because I'm annoyed that he's pressing me for it. And then I'm like, okay, just have it. And then, but I think we work, I don't even know how we worked through that, but we just got past it.
I think the truth is, like what you're saying is completely true, right? And she was one like the celibacy part, you know, leading up to marriage, and for me it was not so much about that. So I think also the reality of it is it needed a lot of maturity, right? For example, like I wasn't like a holier than thou person, right? So no, so just to give the context, meaning that I had like my experience which kind of led to certain expectations in the marriage, right? And I think that's also where we were kind of missing each other. So we'd have spells where like everything is good, but then I'd have maybe an expectation, right? So it needed a lot of growth where it's like kind of take a step back, right? And forget everything, right? Whether it's other partners or whatnot, but just forget everything and let's now focus on this, meaning that at some point we actually had a discussion. We said, okay, and she told me that you need to learn what I like, right? And then I'll also learn what you like. And I think that really started to make things a bit better moving forward, because like let's actually just refresh and get to know each other as well. So so I think a lot of it then started to improve.
There's something so profound that I heard this past weekend, right? So I was attending a women's conference and one of the topics, in fact, it was his mom preaching, it was Mother O, and she was now speaking about like sexual purity, right, at a women's conference. And it was such a deep topic that when she got off the stage, they were like, okay, let's not close the service. Let's actually take some questions, because there's probably a lot of you here who maybe you're actually asking yourself, like, why shouldn't I have sex, right? And I won't get into all of that, but something profound that was said that really stuck with me is that the devil is always trying to twist God's order. So it's always so much easier to have sex out of marriage, right? Because God wants you to have sex in marriage. So the devil twists it, and sex out of marriage is so prevalent. It's thriving. It's, you know, and that's where it's passionate. And then because the devil is twisting God's order, when it comes to marriage, suddenly where there's supposed to be sex, that's where now you're constantly finding, hey, I must figure out what to, you know. So I think that really stuck out to me when they said that, because it's so true. You find yourself having to navigate things you didn't think you would have to navigate. But I think it just takes patience, because the minute you have a negative approach towards it, it ruins the whole thing.
I've been feeling this way since we hooked up. Tell me what you're fighting for, and I will fight with you. Cause this is our love story. This is our journey. This is our